Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high. Cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold on, we just saying hi. Five somebody rise up. Weekdays catch us live. Somebody let's go.
Good afternoon. Good morning. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Hope this show finds you in good spirits because another day above the dirt is always a blessing. Let's not forget that. All right? Let us not forget that. We got some things going on this morning, this afternoon, wherever you're watching this show this evening as well. There's some stuff going on. It looks like there is going to be an actual court appearance by the man that we have all been wanting to see, Nick Reiner. And he's looking at some serious charges, y'all. And the DP is on the table, y'all, which is insane. Yeah, y'all. But nonetheless, this is some crazy stuff. We got to get into this conversation, so let's get into it because we're all on that perp walk watch, okay? So do me a favor before we get into everything. Do me a solid. Hit that like button down below. Crush it, do it a do. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on these other platforms. If you are watching on these other platforms like Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, Kick, please make sure you hit that like button, that reaction button there. Of course, also do not forget to hit that follow button, okay? Follow, please, and thank you. All right, that'd be greatly appreciated. Of course, do not forget to subscribe right here on my YouTube channel. We cover a lot of things on this channel, everything from true crime to pop culture to politics and all the crazy stuff in between. We talk about it all right here as best as we can. And there's a lot of things going on. Real talk. I'm trying to find time to cover these other cases, these other situations, and we still are squeezing in a lot today. So just get ready for that. So make sure you're subscribed here. Go to my second channel, The Pascal Show Clips, and check out my third channel, Pascal Raw. Subscribe to all those channels, please, and thank you. Hit that notification bell on all those channels. Hit it, set it to all so you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, because it is random. Hit that join button down below, become a member, check out my Patreon, and of course, still got time to go check out, do some Christmas shopping right here on PascalMerch.com. Go check it out. We got some really great stuff over there. PascalMerch.com. Last minute holiday shoppers, take a look at that website. PascalMerch.com. Okay, guys, we got a few things that have just recently happened. First off, just so you guys know, like I just said, and if you're not reading the title above or down below, wherever you're watching this show right here, there is a court appearance that is going to be made for the first time by Nick Reiner. Now, if you don't know what's going on, we're going to be diving into a lot more stuff here while we wait to see what happens in his first court appearance. This may be a very, very short appearance in court. This may be a really, really short court session, but he is looking at some serious charges, and he is being charged with 2 counts of first-degree M. Now, here's something else that's also interesting. They are putting the DP, death penalty, on the docket. Let's be real. If he's found guilty, he could literally not only be a resident of the state, but also be executed by the state. It's pretty wild stuff. Now, there's still a lot of questions we still have that are still remaining to be unanswered so far. There's been a lot of rumors. There's been a lot of things flying left and right. It's been absolutely crazy. We're going to see what happens here. And actually, Megan, that's a good question. I don't know if cameras are going to be allowed in this one or not, but I have a feeling they're going to put cameras in this one for sure. This one's a huge case. This is absolutely massive. So we'll see what happens. I doubt the judge is going to sit there and say, no cameras ever. I don't think so. I think we're going to get cameras in the courtroom because they know that the public wants transparency as well. This is not a federal case. Just so you know, this is not a federal case. So most likely there will be cameras in that courtroom, but we'll see what happens. There might be cameras in the courtroom today as well, but I don't know. We just have to sit and wait idly by and see what happens. But first things first, I do want to share with you guys Alan Jackson, Nick Reiner's lawyer, showing up, and it is a media frenzy out there. Look at all those damn cameras. Look at that. I'm gonna blow it up so you guys can see it. Look at all them lights and cameras and C-stands and all kinds of stuff. Look at that. Look all the way back there. Look at all that media. That's a whole lot of electronics for this very case. This is huge, guys. Obviously, we already know this is a big deal. This is obviously a huge case. All right. And you know what, Allie, you ain't wrong with that. You know for a fact Alan Jackson is loving every moment of this. He likes being on camera. It's free promotion for his next big case. And you got to remember, this is a extremely high profile case. This is basically on within the height and the attention potentially of the likes of like O.J. Simpson, but just throw out race. Real talk. This is a huge, huge case. But let me show you what I mean by media frenzy really quick, because this just happened right when I was getting things prepared and getting ready to go live. Take a look at this. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Because suddenly it just goes, people just start it was nuts. Dang, where the hell did it go? Come on now. There it is. Check this out. Alan Jackson in the house, or walking into the house. That is so insane. Everybody got to get an angle. Everybody got to get their shot. Crazy. You know, a woman almost got hit with a microphone. Nuts, right? This is a very big deal. I didn't mean to do that. Let me pull that up. This is a very, very big deal. Okay. Very big deals. All right, I'm gonna mute this for now, and I'm gonna skip to the live. And hold on, let me just see, just to see if she's saying anything, just to see if she's reporting anything, because you never know. Yeah, everybody's waiting for the press conference, or, for Alan Jackson to make some sort of statement before, after this whole court appearance, right? Now, everybody's sitting and waiting. We'll see what happens here. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting turn of events. But of course, it's going to be just standard stuff. We'll see. He's going to be like, oh, yeah, he's been hit with these charges, and we're just going to fight. And, they're going to ask some questions that he can't answer right now. We're going to see. But I just want to see if there's anything else in there. Yeah, no talking heads or anything of that sort. So I'm just gonna put that to the live, and we're gonna keep it moving. So there's a lot going on. There's been a lot of stuff that has been released as of late. Some really jacked up stuff, to be really honest. Um, they have now released footage of him appearing at a gas station. This is like apparently this is right after when he took the lives of allegedly took the lives of his parents. But he's at this gas station, like just chilling, getting food, etc. Okay. Now that's the other thing too, Mary. That's one thing we don't know for sure yet, which is really, really frustrating. They didn't confirm or deny that they had the weapon. That's the problem. We don't know if they actually have the weapon or not. They didn't say anything about it, right? Have you heard if they found the weapon? There have been some conflicting reports, so I'm curious if it's true. Yeah, I was even watching Brian Enton very early this morning, and even early this morning, he was asking the ex FBI agent that question, that former FBI agent as well. And honestly, we haven't heard a damn thing. We haven't heard a damn thing about them actually having the weapon in their possession. Then that could make things a little funky if they don't have the weapon. You see what I'm saying? But again, something about what I talked about this morning. I did a video. I don't know if you guys saw it. We're going to tap into on that a little bit as we wait to hear, to talk. We're going to talk about that a little bit to see, because I kind of want to expand on the discussion on that video. And I appreciate you guys watching it. And I highly recommend you guys go and check that out when you get a second, and then come back, because we might be here for a second. We might be here for a second, or we might be here for a second. You see what I'm saying? But nonetheless, they made it they gave me the vibe like they did have it in that last press conference, but they didn't confirm or deny it. But it gave me the vibe that they may have the weapon. But if they don't have the weapon, there's something else that tells me something, at least in my personal opinion. But we're going to talk about that in a second. Let's take a look at this, because they now have footage of him inside a gas station getting things. Okay, like just buying something to drink. He seems fine, which is crazy.
Tonight, this time in the deaths of Michelle and Rob Reiner. Their son officially has been charged now with their murders. 6 charges in all, including first-degree murder. And that breaking news tonight, we just obtained new video from a gas station where Nick Reiner is spotted buying a drink right before he was arrested. I
want to point this out. He looks calm. That's kind of scary. And it doesn't look like he's tweaking. Doesn't look like he's under the influence in this video. But let's continue watching.
News reporter Anthony Carlo has the new video as the arrest also happened.
It may look cinematic as new video shows police swarming their suspect, but this was far from a Hollywood ending. The person in handcuffs, now formally accused of stabbing to death film giant Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle, their own son.
Today, I'm here to announce that our office will be filing charges against Nick Reiner.
The announcement today from the Los Angeles County District Attorney made crystal clear the troubled life of Nick Reiner had devolved to a place so twisted. Murder, they said, is what he turned to.
Rob Reiner was a brilliant actor and director, an iconic force in our entertainment industry. His wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, was an equally iconic photographer and producer. Their loss is beyond tragic.
Again, let me just say this. I agree. This is absolutely a tragic situation. I still have a lot of questions. In fact, there are other questions that are popping up that could give the vibe of maybe he didn't do this at all. But that's not what. Okay, let me just hold up. Before some of y'all go, what? Before you lose your minds, hold on. That doesn't mean that I think that he didn't do it. I still think that he did it. I still believe that he did it. But there are other questions that do make me wonder what else could be going on here. You see what I'm saying? So, of course, we're going to talk about that in a second because it doesn't make any sense that he would check himself into this hotel, which was like a very expensive hotel, by the way. This wasn't just like he was at some Motel 6, all right? Not some like Red Roof Inn, like some Carly Russell looking ass, okay? Eating, Cheez-Its and granola bars. No, he went to a really nice hotel. $400 a night, apparently, if I have that information correct. And then he put blood all over the spot, all up in the shower, on the bed sheets, etc. If that doesn't tell you he was involved in the unaliving of his parents, I don't know what will. But there are some other questions that I do have in regards to the fact that how he's acting afterwards, which is just strange to me. Okay. Now that could be part of the schizophrenia, because I think he has schizophrenia. That could be part of the schizophrenia. Maybe he snapped and completely turned his brain off. Another part of him was a part of this situation, not the Nick that they all grew and loved. I don't know, but there's something here that's weird. Then the other thing is, and we still got to get this question answered. Who is bankrolling Alan Jackson? Is it just because he has money in his pockets? So he has a trust and he's able to access that? It's pretty fast that he was able to access his trust. Not even days. Less than days to reach out and get Alan Jackson. You got to realize that, today is Wednesday morning. It's a very early morning, right? Out in LA. Shoot, it's 9:00 in the morning in LA right now. Just so you know, right? Yeah, it's 9:00 in the morning. So you got that going on. Parents were found gone on Sunday, y'all. The reports were made Sunday night. So he was able to access his trust, access possibly funds, because it's not like he has does he have a job? Is he bartending or waiting tables somewhere? You see what I'm saying? I'm asking the important questions here. You might think these are dumb questions, but these are important questions. He was able to obtain Alan Jackson like that. It's Wednesday, by the way. They reported Rob Reiner and his wife gone Sunday. We reported it live on my the black and white ball, Nelly's black and white ball, right? I'm sitting there chilling. Suddenly, y'all broke the news to me. And then we broke the news right there. That was late Sunday night. And it's Wednesday, and he already has Alan Jackson, a high-paying, high-powered attorney, on his retainer like that? Shoot. That's crazy. How is he paying this man? And if it's not him, who is paying this man? I'm telling you right now, I am still standing 10 toes down. And if I'm wrong, then I'll be one be like, okay, I was wrong. I ain't going to walk nothing back like Candace Owens. Okay. We still got to talk about that too. We're going to talk about a little bit of that here in a second, but I ain't going to walk nothing back. I'm just going to be like, yo, I was wrong. He pled guilty. I'm shocked. You brought in Alan Jackson to help you plead guilty? Okay. It's a very expensive guilty plea. You paying copious amounts of money to bring in Alan Jackson. You most definitely saying not guilty. But what is his argument? What is his excuse? Is he going to say, my name's Bennett and I wasn't in it? I wasn't even there. What you saw in there was all that red in the bathroom and on the bed sheets. It all came from a paper cut. A really, really deep paper cut. You see what I'm saying? You're not hiring a power very powerful attorney like Alan Jackson, just so you can just say, guilty, Your Honor? Nah. Hail to the nah. Okay? Hail to the nah. You are going to go and say not guilty. Trust and believe. Because if you're pleading guilty, you're calling in somebody who's a decent lawyer, maybe not powerful like a powerhouse attorney. And you're going, okay, just help me make the transition easy. And help me try to get a lesser sentence. I don't want my head on a chopping block because of that DP claim. Because what he did, what he is alleged of doing is grisly as hell. Right? That's what you need that lawyer, like, not as expensive, mid-level type of situation. In fact, you could even get a public defender to do that for you. But no, he hired a very, very well-known, very successful, and very expensive lawyer like Alan Jackson. Just getting done with a huge high-profile case out in Massachusetts, okay, with the Karen Reed case, and now he's out in L.A., doing this huge high-profile case. Nah. He pleaded not guilty, y'all. Mark my words. Mark my words. Unless there's some crazy curveball that happens. Right now, they're walking in. He ain't saying guilty. But now I want to know, what's he going to say? That's what I want to know, because let's be real. He checked into that hotel at 4 a.m. Sunday morning, right after he allegedly unalived his mom and dad. They went into that hotel and they found red all over the place. They said the shower was covered in blood. Bed sheets. The bed was covered in blood as well, right? What's he going to say? It wasn't me, but I found them that way, and I freaked out and ran. He might say that. He might also say, and that's why, I had my hands on them. I was trying to save their lives. That's why there's all this blood on me. That's why. Or he's going to say, I don't remember anything. I was completely zooted on substances, and I checked out. I blacked out. I don't remember anything. No matter what, I agree, RH. He's screwed. Mother Love is cooked. He better have the best alibi and the best reason and the best excuse if you are literally saying not guilty. But you're not wasting a big-time lawyer's time like Alan Jackson if you're going to march in there and say guilty. But hey, you never know. I've been wrong many times in my life. Maybe I'm wrong today.
It was only a decade ago Nick spoke highly of his parents while he and his father were promoting their film inspired by his own struggles with addiction.
Well, I think I'm lucky in the sense that I have parents that care about me.
Just a few years later, on a podcast in 2018, Nick shared how violent and ugly his battle with drugs could get, describing how he once destroyed his parents' guest house while high on meth.
I was up for days on end, and I started punching out different things in my guest house.
A family dynamic marred by substance abuse and conflict. It would be no different just this past Saturday night. Sources tell ABC News Rob Reiner and his son Nick got into an argument at Conan O'Brien's holiday party. Nick was seen acting strangely. The next day, Reiner's daughter found the bodies of her parents inside their Brentwood home.
This case is heartbreaking and deeply personal, not only for the Reiner family and their loved ones, but for our entire city.
Rob Reiner's films are those of Hollywood immortality.
I'll have what she's having.
But even those who seem larger than life are mortal. And when it came to discussing his son, at least publicly, Rob was ever so human.
Because they don't know what he's gone through. Yeah. They don't know why he's done what he does.
32-year-old Nick Reiner could face the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. The district attorney says the family's wishes would be taken into consideration. He faces 2 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances, some of the most serious charges that can be brought for allegedly using a knife to kill his mother and father.
Okay. Pretty insane stuff, okay? And obviously we are all reacting to this in a very understandably guttural and very visceral way. But we got to also start asking the questions on what it actually happened here. One thing is for sure. I want to pull this up because something just doesn't feel right. Now, I just did this video. I'm not going through this whole thing all over again. But there's highlights in this thing that I just kind of want to expand on a little bit as we wait, because we're still waiting. And there's the press conference or anything. They have not come out of the room yet or out of the courthouse yet. I'm sure things are just getting started. I mean, shoot, it's only 9 minutes after 9:09 a.m. right now. So let's give them a little grace, and then they'll be in here, out here. I'm sure Alan Jackson will have no problem letting us know what was going on inside that courtroom for today. But there's something about this conversation that's just still kind of eating away at me. And I want to talk to you guys about this. So one of Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner's closest friends, Barry, I'm forgetting his name right now. Markowitz? Yep, Barry Markowitz. Okay. Barry Markowitz came out and he spoke on this whole situation. He said, in fact, I was over there for about 5 days and it was like normal. It was just hanging out with the family. They just added me in. I was just part of the family. I've always been a part of the family. And like I said, there's certain dynamics of that, certain pieces of that make you realize that Rob Reiner and his wife were dope. They were loving people. They were like, hey, no. You're not staying in a hotel. You're coming over here. You come here and you hang out with us. They said there's no fridge, no good toilet paper, no family, crappy food. Come on now. You're staying here. Say less, man. Don't say no to us. Show up. And that's exactly what he did. And he stayed there for 5 days. And the whole thing, how he described it was like, he said, LOVE, nothing but love in that place. Nick was very normal. He even said Nick seemed to be very happy, very on the upswing, on the up and up, which is also very interesting, which, by the way, this is only a few weeks. This is a few weeks before he showed up to Conan O'Brien's holiday party, zooted out his damn mind. But a few weeks before Thanksgiving, everybody was smiles. Everything was fine. Nick was being a good son, being very helpful to the family. The family would always have dinner of some sort with Nick and the daughter, Nick and his sister, Rami. She would show up because she lived across the street from the home. Just family being family, right? Pretty amazing stuff. Beautiful stuff to hear. And he said he seemed absolutely fine. He was in good spirits. That's very important to hear. So during that time, either he was doing a really good job at hiding that he was on stuff during that time, or he didn't start doing things until after Barry Markowitz went and left the home, went back home. Okay. That's the only theory I have. Hence the reason why when Conan O'Brien's holiday party shows up and happens, you got him completely just messed out of his mind. And of course, Rob and his wife, of course, have a very visceral reaction, passionate, visceral reaction to their son acting a mother-loving fool. Not only just the fact that they caught their son in real time high as hell, but also that he was doing this at a huge event, which should be a moment of networking, getting to know certain people. This is also an opportunity to make some business deals, the start of business deals happening right then and there, hanging out with friends, family, etc. And then showing, that's embarrassing. That's absolutely embarrassing. And of course, absolutely sad. But happening right there in real time, it's horrible. So of course there's a huge blowout, because probably that was the first time they ever saw him on something in a while. And maybe they thought he was doing just fine, and then suddenly out of nowhere, bang, this whole thing happens. And he's on something. Zooted out his damn mind. Now, here's the thing. All right. So the parents catch him, right? At this party. He gets mad. And we just need to talk about this for a second, okay? He was doing just fine. He was cool. He was chilling. When Barry Markowitz saw him, he was doing totally fine. And then, out of nowhere, it goes from a loving family to two parents gone. And if the information is correct, and this is very important, okay? Very, very important, because I do believe there's a thin line between love and hate. Absolutely. There's definitely a thin line between love and hate. Let's not forget that. But you mean on a dime? On a dime, it's straight up murking people. I love you, mom and dad. You guys are the best. You brought me into this world. You've loved me so much. You've done everything you could to get me sober and to get me right. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I'm attacking you? To me, that's insane. But here's something else I want to point out. Just one thing. And these dynamics, these pieces of information are absolutely crucial. Hear me out. Where were they when they were found? Hold on. It's very important that we find out exactly where they were. Were they sleeping in bed? Were they found unalive in bed? Or were they strewn throughout, found in various areas throughout the house? That piece of information is very important. You want to know why it's so important? Let me peep you on game real quick. It's two different types of sinister. One is somebody who is seethingly angry. He goes off and he's like, you can't kick me out, right? He barges into that house and he viciously attacks them right there in the house. I'm just painting the scenario. There's a struggle, there's a fight, etc., right? Anger, like what he did when he was completely out his mind on Crystal, busting up things in the guest house. And he goes, next thing I know, the whole place is destroyed, right? That type of rage is something else. But it is very much guttural, knee-jerk reaction. Anger. Very passionate rage, right? And everything in its path gets destroyed, including two loving people's lives. You have that in your head, right? Now pause. Hit that pause button for a second. And now let's look at the other idea, the other story, saying that they're saying that these two were found in their bed with their throats. You heard that, right? One thing is for sure. We don't know if that's entirely 110% true, like they were found in the bed and that's it. And the only injury that they received was around the neck area. We don't have any confirmation. We don't have any solid confirmation of that yet. But one thing is for sure. If it is like that, that means this is one of the most diabolical human beings we have seen in a very long time. And I don't mean to sound dramatic. I'm just keeping it real, y'all. Think about this for a second. He is seething. He is angry as hell. If he walked in, snuck into that room while they were asleep and did it while they were sleeping, this shows that this man has been thinking about this for a while. At least to me. This is not a situation where it was passionate rage and he's just shaking the house to its very foundation, right? And letting everybody know he's so angry and he puts pain on his parents. No. He went home or went somewhere else and he sat there and he thought about it. And then he snuck into the room, if this is true, and did what he did to his parents, the two people who brought him into this mother-loving world, while they're asleep while they're asleep. Do you realize how diabolical, how disgusting, how disturbing that is, even more than just somebody who's just angry, running around, having a little hissy fit because he's just some spoiled rich kid who just feels like he can't get his way? This means this person sat down and thought about this thing and then executed the execution. That is insane. So, with all that being said, do you really think he's not guilty? Or no? Here's the other thing, too. Hold on. And I get it's easy to obtain legal representation, but he got Alan Jackson pretty freaking quick. Think about that for a second. No. Put that in your put that bee in your bonnet. Let that buzz around in your bonnet for a second. Doesn't that seem a little bit weird? And you're right, Christopher. We do need to wait. We don't have all the information. But if the information that has been put out here so far is true, then this guy, I feel, sat down and had these thoughts. Again, of course, if he's the one who did it, I still think he did it. I still believe he did this thing. He did this mother-loving thing. That's just what I truly think. But like I said, I've been wrong a million times before. But there's something about this that just screams. That just screams premeditation. Real talk. This screams premeditation, guys. But, you know, wilder things have happened, have they not? So, just something to think about. We're still waiting for the press conference to happen. But again, there's even more stuff. Yo, this dude and this is just not right. And like I said, what is going to be his excuse? What's going to be his excuse? And how is he able to, unless Alan Jackson has represented him before? I'm just a little shocked about how quickly he was able to obtain Alan Jackson. I'm sorry, I just feel like that's a little bit strange. And that's the other thing too, MS Dubs. Yes. Rami said he was dangerous. Rami said he was dangerous. And I get it. That let's be real. There are situations where you're going to put on your best self when guests are in your house, right? You're going to try to be the best representation of yourself and as a family. most of the time. Sometimes families just let it all hang out and they don't care. If there's problems, and people just see it. But some others will do everything they can to look like they are just the best family ever. Damn near Partridge Family, damn near Brady Bunch up in this biz naive, okay? Like, damn, did I just walk into an episode of Family Matters without the Steve Urkel? Damn, this is a loving family. It makes me want kind of sick. I wish my family was dope like this. Damn. Bake cookies every day. Damn. Home cooked meals every single day. Damn. But in actuality, when that person leaves, it's McDonald's every day. You know what I'm saying? That's possible. But at the same time, when you got somebody who is saying, I always come over there and it's always been an amazing time, that does tell you something. I just feel like if there was a dynamic of concern, I feel like the family friend would have said something. But the thing that does give me great pause is when you have the likes of Rami, his daughter, Nick's sister, going like, oh, I know Nick, and please keep him locked up. That's just crazy to me. That's just really crazy to me. That's a dynamic that I would love to have a better understanding on as well. Just seems a little bit strange to me, don't you think? But like I said, just because you're in somebody's home for 5 days doesn't mean that you're going to understand every dynamic of a family inside their household, right? But it's just very, very interesting. Hold on, I got there's some more stuff too that I want to show as we wait, because they haven't started anything yet. I mean, the court is already in session and everything, but there are no cameras inside this one so far, or live. I mean, okay, but wait, I think it's long. One second, y'all. And also, please, guys, don't forget to hit that like button down below. Crush it. Okay. Yes. Grand rising to you as well, Charlene. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I do appreciate it. I truly. Oh, nope. It's Core TV. Let me get this here. Hold on, y'all. Because apparently there's other footage of him walking around, allegedly. Yeah, I got to find it. Hold on. But just checking. Hold on. Okay. Just making sure we're not. Oh, wow. Oh, never mind. We'll go back to that later. They do have a live feed, it looks like. Oh, this is fire. Let's go. Wow. Hell yeah.
Continuance of the arraignment. I won't get to this juncture. It's too early. We've coordinated with counsel from the DA's office, and January 7th, with the court's permission, will be a convenient date for us to come back for potential arraignment. This time I'll take a waiver, an arraignment waiver from your client. Mr. Reiner, you have a constitutional and statutory right to a speedy arraignment. Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7th, 2026. Do you waive your right to a speedy arraignment so that your arraignment can be heard on January 7th, 2026? And does counsel join in the waiver? I join. The court finds that the defendant has made a knowing and intelligent waiver of his right to a speedy arraignment, and that is counsel joins in that waiver. Matter set January 7th, 2026 for arraignment. This department failed to stand at no bail. Anything further on the case? Not by the defense, Your Honor. Anything further? No, thank you. Thank you.
Continuance. They're getting it. It looks like they're getting a continuance.
Quick words. First of all, and most importantly, this is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly, but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We ask that during this process, you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves. So with that, we are set for January 7th for an arraignment. That's the next court date. And that's all I have to say at this point. There may be more at some other point, but today we're going to rest on where we stand procedurally, which is this was a continuance of an arraignment. Nothing happened today substantively. We'll be back for an arraignment in the same department on the 7th of January. We'll see you then.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. That's a little bit surprising to me. That's a little surprising to me. I'm going to keep it real. That's a little surprising to me. So instead of it being him getting charged, arraigned, and all that today, they asked for a continuance. Now it's not going to be until next year, just about 2 weeks from now. And yes, I truly, truly believe that they are trying to buy a little bit of time. And again, he has the right to do that. He has a right to ask for a continuance. He has every right to do that, right? It is annoying for us because we want to see what he's going to say. We want to see what's going on here. But this also gives him some time to go through withdrawal. And we don't know his mental state. We have no idea what his mental state is right now. He may be losing his damn mind right now, or he may be just doing just fine. We don't know yet. But that's some very interesting stuff. So yesterday was a false alarm. Today, now it is another. It's another request for a little bit more time, right? Very interesting. Hold on, we got more. I'm gonna see if we got anybody live talking about this too. Let's see, as far as reporters and whatnot. Unbelievable. Yeah, so I don't think he was a no-show. He wasn't even there. You see what I'm saying? So again, I don't know. I don't think Alan Jackson's fully prepared either. I'm sure he's trying to get a little bit of time to fully get an assessment of what the hell happened here. And I guess we're going to see what happens. But again, like I said, this is just very interesting, very shocking stuff. Like I said, the turn of events here is just, it's wild. So hold on, guys. Hold on 1 second. Just crazy. All right. So I'm going to pull this up. No one else is really reporting this yet, but talking on everything. But shout out to Core TV. They have other footage here, so I want to share that with y'all too. Take a look at this.
And show you some video. This was obtained by the New York Post. It shows Nick Reiner strolling through a gas station near his parents' home. It's time-stamped at midnight on Sunday night. We know that this was before the bodies were discovered, but in terms of when the homicides occurred, law enforcement has not definitively said in their timeline of events. Perhaps they're still working that out, but here we see him here. Zach, what more are you hearing out in Hollywood about Nick Reiner and about him perhaps being troubled?
Yeah, we have, former friends that have now started to speak out. I believe I saw an article on Page Six this morning. And we have interviews with even Rob Reiner back in as recent as September, where he's talking about how his son was in a much better place considering all of his addiction issues that we've seen in the past. But it seems like over the last couple of weeks, he's become a bit more erratic. I'm hearing that he got into two tense exchanges at the Conan O'Brien party. One of them was with comedian Bill Hader from the SNL fame. He had a tense exchange with him, and that was right before getting into an argument with his parents. So it seems, at least over the past couple of days, there was some erratic behavior that his parents were also expressing concerns with at the party, which, is just, it's troubling to hear that last we had heard he was in a much better place, but it seems recently he may have fallen off the wagon.
Yeah, it's so sad, Zach. And I'm sure you saw the reaction from a slew of Hollywood icons putting out a statement. Billy Crystal, Larry David, Martin Short, Albert Brooks, all honoring Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner. Zach, what do you think that means to the members of the Reiner family in the friend circle that are just, grieving so much? What do you think it means to see so much support all around the country just flooding in for this couple?
Yeah, I think fans overwhelmingly have been incredibly supportive, but then even seeing, I know Billy Crystal and Larry David have been very involved in supporting the family and supporting the kids at this time. Jane Fonda, I saw, also released a statement. She saw the Reiners that night at the party as well. I know the Obamas said that they were supposed to see the Reiners over the weekend and unfortunately didn't get an opportunity to. So I think, throughout Hollywood and just even online right now, we're just seeing kind of this sentiment of, remembering the Reiners, remembering Rob, the films that he produced and directed and starred in, and just, also having a, really reflective moment of the relationship that we watched between Rob and Nick over the years, even dating back to, the 2010s when they released Being Charlie together. And we got to really see more of that relationship as Nick started to step into the spotlight. So it's a really sad time, but I'm hopefully, with the reaction on social media and the number of celebs that have, known the Reiners for a long time that have released statements, I'm hoping that the family's finding some sort of comfort in that.
Yes, well said, Zach. Franz, let me turn to you on the possibility that we could see Nick Reiner being arraigned today. As you know, it was postponed yesterday because he wasn't medically cleared. We saw his counsel. Many wondered if he would have counsel, and he did that early. Attorney Alan Jackson, who we have seen before.
You heard it right there, too. Okay? You just heard Julie just say that. Or Julia. He was able to obtain this lawyer this early, like this powerful attorney this quickly. How? Is it just because he has him on retainer, like just has him on speed dial? Or, this, I'm sorry, but we have to ask all the questions. Was this premeditated and he already knew who he was going to call if he got caught? You see what I'm saying? Because let me be real. If this is a crime of straight up passion, knee jerk passion, I'm not instantly thinking, oh, I'm calling up Alan Jackson right now. I just don't. You know what I'm saying? I'm not instantly thinking about, oh, let me call X, Y, and Z. You see what I'm saying? You're sitting there going like, what am I going to do? They're coming for me. It's only a matter of time that I'm going to get arrested and get in trouble for this situation. What am I going to do? But I'm not sitting there instantly saying, yep, calling up Alan Jackson. It just seems a little bit weird, But maybe he was on retainer. Yeah, you never know, just me. Maybe he was on retainer. It just something's odd here. I'm going to play a little bit more of this.
In various cases, he was there in the courtroom and explained that he wouldn't be available for arraignment, but we're hearing that he may have been cleared. There's some reporting out there. Court TV is working to confirm some of what we're hearing, that he might be arraigned this morning. Franz, tell me, in terms of the psychology, the evaluations, all that, is it too early to really know what frame of mind he might have been in at the time of this incident in question?
So, the joke is always there's only one way to mess up an arraignment, and that's to plead something other than not guilty, right? That arraignment's just set up for that. And you can always modify that plea of not guilty to not guilty by reason of insanity. You can always file a motion for competency if he's not able to assist himself and counsel and understand what's going on. I think that this individual probably has an extensive medical history with regard to some of the demons he's fought. I think that I would be surprised to see some kind of not guilty by reason of insanity plea as of today or in the very near future, until such time that his team has everything lined up. It's going to create, if that happens, that will also create some mechanisms in the legal system that have to happen that will kind of delay the process. That said, those mental health records, the materials that's going to be collected, let's not mince words. Those are the same materials that you're going to give the prosecutor for mitigation to try to get the death penalty off the table. So it's a two birds, one stone kind of scenario. I would not expect to see not guilty by reason of insanity today if he's arraigned. I think it will be straight not guilty.
Mm-hmm. We appreciate that insight, Franz. It's very helpful.
Again, I truly think that, of course, there's going to be a not guilty plea. Will they say not guilty by reason of insanity? Maybe. They might. But then at the same time, like, how are they going to prove it? I mean, but that's Alan Jackson's job. That's exactly Alan Jackson's job, to prove without a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, that this was a mental health crisis. This man lost his marbles and he did what he did. He did this grisly crime, but he was not within his right mind while doing it. Or it's going to be not guilty. I'm not the one who did it. But then at the same time, he's going to have a very, very difficult time trying to prove that he's innocent when you got all these pieces of information stacked up against him right now. Here's the other thing too. Let's just entertain this thought really quick. If he didn't do it, let's just say he says he didn't do it. Okay, let me just say that. If he was out here saying, I didn't do it, it wasn't me, it was that damn Sasquatch, right? There's too many things stacked up against him right now. And then the instant question would be like, first off, if it wasn't you and you went to this hotel, why was your hotel covered in red? Why was the hotel room covered in red? Explain that. In fact, if you can explain that and you say, oh, this is the reason why, because I found them unalive. I tried to do life-saving procedures as best as I could, and they didn't survive. They died right in front of me. Then why weren't you calling 911? Why didn't you call 911? Why did you let your poor sister get the keys to the house, unlock the front door or side door, walk into the home to find her parents gone? Why would you let your sister go through that kind of pain or have that kind of trauma? I'm just saying, if you knew before the whole world knew that these two lost their lives in such a horrific way, and it wasn't done by your hand, Why didn't you call 911? Why didn't you call somebody? Why did you run out in the middle of the night and go to a hotel room? Why is there red all over the bed sheets, the bed, the shower? Then why would you go and run off 20 miles away from your home and from the hotel room that you were staying in? Why were you out there? Why were you just running around, walking around in these streets? All I'm saying is all those things, he's going to have a very, very hard time proving any of this stuff in court. Now, I understand this is his job. This is Alan Jackson's job. His job is to sit here and go, look, see, he didn't do it, guys. And let me show you how proof that he didn't do it. You understand how insane that is, right? You understand how nutty that is and how difficult it's going to be for Alan Jackson to actually prove it. Doesn't matter if you are the best lawyer in the freaking world. You still have to show proof that he didn't do it. But unfortunately, I don't think this kid has a fighting chance. I really don't. He does not have a fighting chance, y'all. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what they do. But honestly, how this man and his wife lost their lives is just the most terrifying and one of the scariest things it's kind of like Idaho 4. Very scary, guys. Very, very scary. Hold on, guys. One second. One second. And if you guys could do me a favor, hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. Make sure you do that. Make sure you do that.
Nick Reiner, son of famed Hollywood director Rob Reiner, making his first appearance in a Los Angeles courtroom this morning.
Well, not
after
really,
being arrested
but
on suspicion of murder in connection with the deaths of his parents. The tragedy puts Nick's long history with drug addiction and mental health struggles back into the spotlight. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-host, Kaylee McEnany. And also joining us today, Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business. Dr. Nicole Saphier, Fox News contributor and board-certified physician, to death in their Brentwood home. He was initially arrested on suspicion of murder and held on a $4 million bail, but his status was quickly changed to no bail after police say he is the one responsible for his parents' murders. TMZ revealing more details about the night before the murders, where Nick and Rob reportedly got into a, quote, very loud argument. Loud enough, in fact, for other people to hear at a holiday party at Conan O'Brien's home. Nick has been upfront about his struggles with addiction and even homelessness, and worked with his father to turn those experiences into the movie Being Charlie. Rob said working on the project brought the two closer together. Watch.
You don't set out to have a cathartic experience or this will be therapeutic in some way, but the fact that we were dealing with things that Nick had gone through and how I had related to it and how his mother had related to it, it forced me to have to see more clearly and understand more deeply what Nick had gone through. And I think it forced him to see things that I had experienced during this process. And it definitely brought us closer together.
Some of Reiner's neighbors have spoken about Nick's troubled history, with one telling the Post, this is not the first time their son has been violent. A family friend adding more detail. Watch.
I think he was sort of in and out of the home, not really particularly living there. I know there's reports, he was living on the streets at the time, he was homeless, but that kind of goes along with the issues that folks like he deal with.
Dakota, just tragedy upon tragedy here, and with so many more questions, of course.
Yeah, I think that this is something that is so relatable across, in every household. Is at what point as a parent do you have to start worrying about this, you not being able to be the solution for this, right? I mean, you talk about this, families are struggling with trying to help out their children or that aspect of it. I relate back to this and not to this concept of it, but coming home and struggling with mental health as we're seeing across our nation right now, but then looking at your children struggling, right? Like this is every parent's fear right here of being able to how do you figure this out? How do you help them? But how do you also make sure that they're getting the help that they need? And that might not be you, right? And it's such a terrible tragedy that ended, and it's so terrible, right?
Yeah, such a great point. And Doctor, that sort of tees up something that we wanted to show here, which is Rob Reiner talking about that he says, look, I was listening to the people with PhDs and diplomas on the wall. I was listening to the doctors. And he said, but maybe I should have listened to my son. Let's play that.
What about when you wrecked the guest house on meth? You don't want to tell that story?
Yeah, I went 10 rounds with my guest house. It's not much of a story. I got totally spun out on uppers. I think it was coke and something else, and I was up for days on end, and I started punching out different things in my guest house.
Okay, so that was a different point, but that is illustrating or underscoring that Nick indeed had this violent history, that he himself is talking about destroying the guest house. But the point that I wanted to draw to you guys is again, the dad, Rob Reiner, talking about Nick's time in drug rehab. And he told the Los Angeles Times back in 2015 this, he said, when Nick would tell us that drug rehab wasn't working for him, we wouldn't listen. We were desperate. And because the people had diplomas on their wall, we listened to them when we should have been listening to our son. Doctor, your thoughts on that?
Something I say to patients every single day is, your body better than anyone else. And although I can't see something that is wrong right there, if you're telling me something has changed, something is wrong, then we have to keep going because, again, better than anyone else. And when it comes to children, parents know their children best. And, we like to think that money and access will protect our children. But the reality is data show otherwise. And actually, children who are born in privilege are more likely to have risky behaviors. And that is from fewer boundaries, less supervision, and this false sense of invincibility. And so when you grow up without limits, you try to find limits and you push those limits, and often in dangerous ways. And so the fact that his son, Rob Reiner's son, started experimenting with drugs in his teens, that is not uncommon. And from that, I guess it sounds like that the parents were trying to be strict with him, saying, if you don't go to rehab, which is what the experts are saying, then you can't live in our house. And that is how he had subsequent bouts of homelessness. And it just sounds like he has had decades of substance abuse. There have been talk about mental illness. I don't know that he has anything that has been diagnosed in him, but obviously has likely suffered from depression, anxiety. And while most people who have substance abuse issues are not violent, 40% of all violence involves some sort of substance, whether it's alcohol or drugs. That one, what we heard him talk about on the podcast where he destroyed the guest house, he said he was high on meth. So is it possible that the son was high at that holiday party the night before and something ensued afterwards? Absolutely. It is devastating. You've already heard President Trump. He is trying to tackle drugs in this country because drugs affect more lives than just about anything else right now.
Sorry, we got to pause on that. That's not entirely true anymore. Trump saying we're doing a war on substances. That's what we're doing. He's not. Have y'all heard about that Vanity Fair? That Vanity Fair hit piece that just came out? Susan Wiles. And everything she said about everybody, even Elon Musk. Damn. That's all I got to say. And then, of course, Trump is making doing a press conference tonight. I don't know if I'm going to be able to be here to watch that, but I am going to be watching it. Okay. He's supposed to be making some big announcement tonight. What's that all about? There's a lot to talk about, y'all. There's so much going on, but I'm sorry. Him saying he's waging a war on them drugs, that's not true. Especially not with Venezuela. Most definitely not with Venezuela. Okay, that has officially been confirmed and shown that no, he's out there for that oil. I wonder why he wants that oil so bad. Sorry for the left turn. But let's talk about it for 5 seconds. Allegedly, they believe that something's going to go down with Taiwan, and that could cause some serious problems with our oil. This is what people are saying. This is what people are saying in the streets. Don't know if it's true or not, but people are very concerned about that. And now he apparently knows that stuff is about to go down. So he's focused on Venezuela, and he's basically trying to strong arm Venezuela. And it's not because of fentanyl. It's not because of them drugs. It's because he wants that oil. He's saying Maduro is a Terry, some sort of terrorist, because they're putting out all this stuff, right? Putting them in boats, and they're going bagoosh to these boats, right? And there's no proof if those boats are actually truly filled with substances or not. At least this is what people are pushing back with, right? I'm just stating what the streets are saying. But one thing's for sure, they got oil. They got a whole lot of oil. So they're focused on that. Has nothing to do with stopping Fenty from coming into our country. Has everything to do with trying to take over the regime. Okay, they're trying to take over Maduro so that they can get their hands on that mother-loving oil. Let's not forget. Yeah, I'll say what? Why? I'll say oil one more time. Oil. That's how I say it. Oil. Okay, but I say oil. This has nothing to do with Fenty and tainted yayo. Has everything to do with oil. And you heard that in the Vanity Fair article, which she has confirmed because it was all on record, y'all. Do you realize how diabolical and insane that is? Yo, I'm telling you right now, there are so many pundits out here that are losing it over that. So many news reporters are literally losing it over that article. And that is his chief of staff. That is his aide. That is the person behind the person, you know what I mean, that helps move all the strings and everything. And she is saying, that's just the tip of the iceberg, baby. She says all kinds of stuff. She said Elon Musk is on that ketamine. On that ketamine. That rumor is true. And that apparently he sleeps in a sleeping bag. I'm sorry. That's wild. She says, well, you know, he's a brilliant man. He's a genius. So you know how geniuses can be. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. It came from her mouth. It came from her mouth. It's all on record. And then they put it all together, tied it up in a nice little bow, in this huge scathing article. And then they did Caroline so dirty. Oh my God. Caroline, they put Caroline close up of her face. Why were they went in. They just, man. A lot of people are either going to get fired, and of course, Vanity Fair, I'm sure, is going to get sued like a mother lover. Give it time. She said Trump has an alcoholic an alcoholic's personality. That is quite the thing to say about somebody you are working for. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, sorry for the left turn, but we had to talk about that because that triggered me a little bit. Sitting there going, they're doing. He's waging a war on drugs in Venezuela. That's not true. That's not true. Even some of his closest aides, the closest aide, said it on record. This is not about that at all. It's all horse manure. I mean, she didn't say it exactly like that. But what? So he's just making boats go boom, boom. For what reason? Oh, to get the oil. Remember, he took a whole oil tanker. Didn't they just take over a whole big-ass, fat-ass boat filled with oil? Yeah, that happened too, baby. That happened too, baby. That just recently happened. I'm not lying. That is facts. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time. We'll talk about that on another show. Okay, we will. We'll talk about all that because that's, like I said, there's so much stuff going on that I could be on here for 7 hours straight and it still would not put a dent in the news that's been cranking out as of late. And this is just Wednesday. Why does it feel like we've already had 3 weeks of news in just 3 days? You see what I'm saying? Damn. It's insane. But I'm going to let them cook.
And this is just devastating all around.
Yeah. It's hard, Cheryl, I confess, as a human, I think about the chemical nature of drugs, and you think about whether it was the drugs that did it and the drugs that sought more drugs to satiate these neural pathways, and it's like I have no control over it. But I can't, as a society, think that we can anyway excuse or explain murder, patricide in such a violent, horrific way with, well, I was high, or he had problems. And I really struggle with that because I have compassion as a Christian, but as a member of society, I mean, how do you adjudicate this?
I'm sorry, wait a second. Why can't you just have compassion as a normal human being? I'm sorry. Like, as a human, I have compassion. Not just, I have compassion because I'm a Christian. You're a human being, baby. Just be a human being too. You have compassion because you care, and it's scary. And we talk about human nature here, and it's scary that somebody would do something like this, right? Right? You have compassion only because you love the Lord? I'm sorry. Come on now, guys. Come on. The rhetoric is insane. But let me hear what this woman has to say about this. And yes, I think I will say this too. I think it's absolute horse-ish for them to sit there and go, yeah, it was the substances. That's what I did. No, stop. Shut up. No. Just because he said one time on a podcast that he went out his mind because he was snorting and probably ingesting snow and crystals, if you get what I'm saying, does not mean that this is okay. That, we'll just blame it on the yayo and the crystal. That's totally fine. Enjoy yourself. Go be amongst us free people. Enjoy yourself. No, that means you are a dangerous individual and that you have no control over yourself. And you don't know the difference between right and wrong, life or death, when you are on that stuff. That's it. You still did the act. You still committed that crime. Miss me with the nonsense of, oh, yeah, because I smoked some weed out of a bong. That made me just unalive a mother lover. Sorry. The psychosis BS is for the birds. I'm sorry it is. Sorry.
Josh Ritter on Harris's show, and he said this will likely be first-degree murder. The death penalty could be on the table for him, although this is California, to be clear. But something that you said, I think, really struck me, because no matter how much money or power or influence that you have, this can happen to you and your family and your children. And it's heartbreaking what has happened to the other siblings, the other two daughters and the other son. But I was looking at the stats, 49 million Americans last year documented cases of substance abuse. That's alcohol and that is drugs. 20 to 25% of those people get treatment. That's it, 20 to 25%. So this is happening across the country to families across the country. On another scale, I remember covering I'm going back to O.J. Simpson. I don't think that Los Angeles and the Hollywood community has seen something like this since that murder case. And this is something that's going to be at the forefront of our television screens and our psyche and the conversation, possibly for years, depending on how long this case plays out. We're going to learn a lot more horrific details. We're going to learn a lot more sad details. And it just makes me hope that maybe somebody out there looks at what happened to the Reiners and says, maybe I need to look back at my child. What else can I do for my son or daughter that's struggling with addiction?
I feel like it is a full-on conversation that needs to be had for parents and or loved ones that are dealing with loved ones that have severe addictions. It is definitely a conversation that needs to be had. But I'm going to tell you this: not every single scenario ends up like this. I just want to remind you guys that. I mean, just to be on a positive side for a second, there are amazing stories out there where people found sobriety and stayed sober to their dying day, right? There have been very wonderful, successful moments of people finding sobriety. Yes, there are some people that mistakes can happen. You know, they fall off the wagon periodically throughout life, but they get back on that wagon because they have good, supportive people in their lives helping them. They got a good support system. But the ones that I fear the most and that I worry the most about are the ones that do have that severe addiction issue. Look at Andy Dick. I know that's a little bit of a left turn, but let's talk about it. Andy Dick just last week OD'd on rock. He's been out here in these streets just gallivanting with a whole bunch of street scallywags, just out there smoking. And then he OD'd. And then what happened? Everyone was very concerned about him because he's sitting there leaning over. He's completely passed out on the street. We're talking about Andy Dick. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that he's had huge amounts of success as of late, but he is a name. Andy Dick. He's Andy Dick. And all of a sudden, he's ODing. And then he said he had the audacity. Apparently, TMZ obtained some footage where they were asking him, like, are you going to stop? And he said, I ain't stopping for nothing. I'm not stopping. And of course, people reacted to that because, of course, people care. Because you're seeing somebody actually taking shots at their life. You know what I'm saying? Every day's Russian roulette for them when they smoke that stuff or inject that stuff or snort that stuff, right? Or even drink that stuff. And finally, he did check himself into rehab, which is fantastic news. But these are the particular individuals that I fear the most for. Not like they do something like what Nick Reiner is alleged of doing, but I fear the most for them that they're just going to have a struggle of a life because their addictions and their dependency on those chemicals and those substances are so severe. That's the part that I get scared of. And I know that there's a lot of other people out here that may be watching the show that might not be watching the show. You may have somebody in your life that you care for and love that has addiction issues that are deeply rooted in their lifestyle. And I get worried for those. All you can do is be the best you can do your best to show up and represent being a pillar, being a person that they can lean on and trust, and not be somebody that enables them into doing what they want to do. That's going to be detrimental not only to themselves, but to other people around them as well. You know, it's like the likes of like Robert Downey Jr. is another example of somebody who has a severe addiction to, stuff, right? And somehow he found sobriety. How he does it, I don't know how. You never know. We don't hear stories of him falling off the wagon or anything of that sort. But You never know. Maybe he does have those moments. We just don't hear about him, right? He costs too much. He's Iron Man well, now he's Dr. Doom, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's a big name, right? And it's a big deal, and a person who does have a severe addiction, battle with addiction. So again, those are just things that I worry and I think about and I pray for. I'm not trying to bring in, religion or anything, but yes, those are things that I get worried about for everybody. You know what I mean? I think we all want to make sure that everyone that we care for and love stay safe out there. But the fact that it turned into this, and this is how Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner lost their lives, it's absolutely insane to me. I still just can't understand. I'm still trying to piece it together. I'm still trying to understand how this even happened. You have a fight. Yes, it was very passionate. I'm sure it was an ugly fight in front of people. Very embarrassing, very revealing at the same time. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he goes off and he just does this. He's angry. He's so angry. He allegedly does this. It just doesn't make sense. You see what I'm saying? It just doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, you can miss me on the nonsense of, oh, I'm going to plead not guilty because I'm going to blame it on the chemicals I was taking. Well, let's not forget, you chose to take those chemicals. You put those chemicals in your body, and then you did this stuff. It's the same thing as like when somebody gets too drunk, gets behind the wheel of a car, and of course gets into a vicious car accident, taking the life of somebody, or hits somebody while they're driving home, right? They decided to consume that alcohol. They decided to consume too much of that alcohol. Then they decided to get their drunk ass behind the wheel of a car and drive it down the road, right? Doesn't matter if they were blackout drunk. They still made that decision to consume, get in the car, drive, and commit a grisly crime. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to this whole, like, if he does do that, if his plea is not guilty and he tries to blame it on the substances that were coursing through his veins at that time, you need to take several seats. That is not a viable or even a logical excuse, in my personal opinion. You decided to take those things. And again, let me remind you too, that also shows he said, like, they could use that podcast clip in court because he basically said, I've done it before where I've taken something that completely blacked me out. I completely blacked out. I don't remember what I did, but I consumed that stuff and I was up, ready to go, crazy for 7 days straight. And by the time the 7 days were over and I came out of that fog, suddenly my entire guest house was destroyed because I was so far gone. They can use that against him. And they'll be like, hey, so if you knew that it was make you black out and do terrible things like vandalize your own home, why would you take it again then, sweetheart? Sorry, that just doesn't work for me either. You see what I'm saying? It's just BS after BS after BS. And so when they say, oh, yeah, this could be a situation of, they can use this as an excuse. Not to me. You can't use that excuse, in my opinion. You most definitely cannot. Stop with that. Stop with that.
January 7, 2026 for arraignment in this department, bail to stand at no bail. Anything further on that case?
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Attorney Alan Jackson, who's representing Nick Reiner as Reiner faces first-degree murder charges for the murder of his parents. Alan Jackson today in court waived Nick Reiner's right for a speedy arraignment, and now they've rescheduled that arraignment. They got a continuance. So still no plea from Nick Reiner, guilty or not guilty to these charges. Let's bring in ABC's Trevor Ault, who's outside the court, and ABC's legal contributor Shauna Lloyd for more on this. Shauna, why waive the right to a speedy arraignment?
The reason that he wanted to waive the right is because there are certain deadlines by which clients have to be arraigned, as well as the trial has to take place. And it's a very short window, usually about 60 days. Waiving this right allows the defense time to develop and get information from the state attorney, investigate the alleged crime. So waiving it just gives them additional time by which they can work their case up and process all of the discovery that they're going to get.
And they're not sure yet how Nick Reiner is going to plea?
That could be a potential. We have to remember that it is up to the defendant to determine their plea, although their lawyers are going to advise them that he may be considering what he wants his plea to be. Typically, most often, we'll see it be not guilty at this early stage. However, if he is considering entering a guilty plea, the reason people do that is because it shows the court that you may potentially have remorse or that you are acknowledging your wrongdoing. There are times where defendants choose to do that from the beginning. So this could be a conversation that he is currently having with his defense team.
Trevor, what's the scene like at the courthouse?
Well, as you might imagine, Diane, it is a swarm of media. This is such a high-profile case when you're talking about Hollywood royalty murdered allegedly by his own son. His wife also murdered in this case. We were expecting Alan Jackson to come out and make those statements. He very clearly has handled several high-profile cases before. We know he represented Harvey Weinstein, recently represented Karen Reed in her acquittal on a murder charge. So ahead of time, there was already a stand set up, all of that media ready for him. He walked right to the podium, and he's very specifically, as we saw, did not take any questions. We still have not heard really very much new information from him at all. The only thing he alluded to were those complex issues that still need to be worked out in this case. Of course, there were so many reporters that have been trying to get answers from him, both when he walked in and walked out. He gave no comment whatsoever as to Nick Reiner's psychological state of mind, as to what had happened with the medical evaluation, as to whether they were pleading guilty or not guilty. He's been very specific. Those comments that we just played for you are really the most substantive that he's had so far. And he was really kind of only expressing we've had the continuance of the arraignment and that they are devastated for the family and that there's a lot of complex issues. Now, we're not 100% certain what those complex issues are. It is certainly possible that something hanging over this case is Nick Reiner's state of mind. He had been very open about the fact that he had been battling drug addiction going back to his teenage years. He had said that he had been to rehab at least 18 times over the course of his life. We are not sure whether or not that is involved in this case. It's something that the district attorney was asked about yesterday. What about his psychological state? What if there's mental illness at play? He simply said if that was the case, that would be discovered over the process of the court case playing out, and then the defense attorney would have to present that. Alan Jackson has not made any indication as to whether or not that is a factor. Drug, substance abuse, mental illness, it's a possibility. It's one of many unanswered questions. What is clear, though, is that they want to take their time before entering that guilty or not guilty plea. And that could be several weeks before we get that answer.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're going to be, obviously, there's going to be a whole lot of speculation and a whole lot of questions about what is actually going on. What kind of plea is he going to make tomorrow? Or I'm sorry, on January 7th. What exactly are we expecting here? What's in the future? How is he? Is he still just completely zooted out of his mind still right now as we speak? It feels like him getting arrested, when he was arrested, it seems like he was sober. It doesn't seem like he's tweaking out at that time. But you never know. You never know. Obviously, you got to remember, too, his mental state. He might be a complete freaking mess right now solely because of what happened, right? Solely because he maybe can't believe he did what he did. Maybe that's what it is. But we'll never know until we actually find out more information, or until we get some more information from sources, right? So get ready, because there's going to be a lot to be said. And I mean, the 7th of January is weeks from now. So, and of course, everybody wants to know everything. Everybody wants to have the information. Everybody wants to know the truth. Do they have the murder weapon in their possession? Was it really a moment of insanity? Was he the one who actually did it? Let's not forget that too. We got to leave that on the table too. What actually happened here, right? I mean, again, I got questions, so many questions, but I'm going to get into the chats, the super chats and the members chats here real quick. But because I'm going to be hopping back on with you guys here in just a little bit, because we have got to go. We need to talk about the Candace Owens, Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk situation. Okay, I saw it last night. We got to talk about it. Woo! Do we have to talk about it? Reiner, thank you so much for being a member for the past 3 months. I appreciate it. Blessings to you and your family. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you as well. And Merry Christmas to everybody in the chat, of course. But we're going to be talking all the way leading up to Christmas time anyway. But yes, thank you so much for saying that, though. We really do appreciate it. All of us do. Okay. Right, chat? Put some Christmas tree emojis in the chat. Okay. If you're feeling the Christmas vibes, right? Raven, thank you so much for the love and being a member for the past 28 months. Damn. Thank you so much. Living off your parents, but can afford substances and attorney. That seems weird to me too, Raven. I agree. It seems odd. Like you living in your parents', guest house. You're living just fine in a safe neighborhood, a nice affluent area, and suddenly out of nowhere, how are you able to obtain an expensive ass lawyer like Alan Jackson? Someone explain that to me, okay? And obviously, it's got to be a trust or something of that sort that he's able to get his hands on, but so damn quickly, it's just shocking. That's all. Why? Thank you so much for the love. I'm sorry for the family, but okay, let's keep it real. Someone want to tell me how the kid ends up in rehab at 15? Where were his parents? Oh, man. You got to remember, let's not forget, he comes from a very successful family. There's a lot of things you got to put in consideration. He's going to probably really good schools. He's probably going to these very elite kind of parties, Hollywood parties. There's a lot of people, a lot of influence and a lot of temptation thrown in his direction. Any of those things can be possible. The parents I'm sure were there. See, here's the thing. And I'm not knocking, why, okay? But you got to remember, just because he has severe addiction does not mean that his parents were bad parents. This should not automatically be a reflection on the parents alone. Some of these kids are brought up in such affluent environments and filled with nothing but love. But then suddenly out of nowhere, they get introduced to something one time and they love it. And then they stick with it forever. And it ruins their freaking life, destroys all their goals and all that stuff. Now, we don't know everything. We don't know how their relationship was or how they raised the kids or anything of that sort. But I do think that it would be a little jumping the gun, for lack of a better term, to just automatically assume that, it's the parents. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's negligence. Sometimes it's parents were never there enough, and he's always at boarding school and found found his addictions in boarding school. Stuff like that. Those things are possible. I'm not going to sit there and say that those things aren't possible, but at the same time, I think that it would be very unfair for us to automatically just think that these were not doting parents or that it's all the parents' fault. I think there's a lot of factors and definitely multitudes of dynamics here that could be the reason why he got into, the reason why he was so deeply addicted to certain types of substances. You just got to remember that too. You know what I mean? So again, they seem to be very loving and doting parents now. But I don't know what it was like for him growing up. Maybe at some point we'll get more information about that. Maybe we'll hear that in court from Alan Jackson. Maybe we'll hear that, but we'll see. But not everything is always on the parents. Like I said, you can even be loving, doting parents to your kid, and then they turn into a serial killer. I'm being real. You can have a great, loving environment, and then suddenly something happens to that kid, and they do some unbelievable thing. And you're like, what are you doing? You see what I'm saying? But then there are other cases where, you got kids that are really bad and the parents freaking know. They know, but they just ignore it. Never underestimate the power of denial. And the next thing you know, they're going into their school and they're causing mass tragedies. See what I'm saying? Like the Ethan Crumbly situation. Clearly the kid had issues, yet you're laying these weapons strewn all around the home. The school's already sitting there going like, we are concerned about your son. He is a very dangerous individual, and you're just ignoring all that. That is bad, okay? But it's the other stuff where it's like, we loved our child. We cared for our child. I thought we were doing A+ on the report card of parenting. And suddenly you do this? Where did this come from? You see what I'm saying? So again, like I said, there's a lot of dynamics. I'm sure we're going to find out more dynamics here very, very soon. Okay. It's a fair question to ask, but like I said, we just got to table that and find out more information as time goes on. Okay. No Joy here. Thank you so much for being a member for over a year. I appreciate it. Thank you. There's no way he could explain how his parents' blood got into the hotel. Absolutely. It's because he was there. If anything, it's because he was there. Let's be real. He may have just walked in on them, gone, and then he tried to do life-preserving procedures. That did not work out, but he got red on him, right? So then he runs back, he goes back to that hotel, or he checks into that hotel, but it still just doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you call 911? Why wouldn't you call your sister that lives literally across the street, a stone's throw away from the house? You could have literally run across the street and said, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Yo, sis, something happened over here. We got to call 911. I don't know what happened. They didn't even do that. He didn't even do that. He ran into a hotel. Then he took a shower, I guess. He tried to get rid of the evidence that was on his body and on his hands and his clothes. And was found all over the place in the hotel room. So yeah, either he did this or he was trying to save his parents' life. I'm leaning on the fact that he did this because everything else doesn't make any sense. That is some lazy work for you to sit there, see your parents gone, and the first reaction is not calling 911. You're calling 911 on speaker while you're trying to revive them. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. Nah, he did that. Shars, thank you so much for the love. I appreciate you being a member for the past month. I appreciate that. This is very devastating. Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is. And hopefully this will be an open and shut case. But he brought in Alan Jackson, so I don't know about that anymore. Okay, I don't. And Tammy Fletcher, thank you so much for the love. I appreciate the support. Thank you so very much. Like I said, there are so many questions that still need to be answered. We're going to get more information in due time. We just need to let more information slowly trickle out, and it's going to be a slow trickle. I don't think we're going to get all this information like a tidal wave of information over the next 2 weeks. But I will say, when it does happen, when we get more information, we'll be talking about it right here on The Pascal Show. Anyway, guys, that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really means a lot. Hey, stick around because I'm going to be back on in about 15 minutes because we have definitely got to talk about Candace Owens and the Erica Kirk meeting and her show. There is so much going on. So stick around because I'm going to be back on very shortly to talk about that as well. And we got to do it live. We definitely got to do it live. So do me a favor. Please do me a solid. Hit that like button down below. Crush it, do what it do. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on these other platforms. If you are watching on these other platforms like Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, Kick. I can't talk now. Please make sure you hit that follow button. Follow. Make sure you're subscribed here on my main channel. Go to my second channel, The Pascal Show Clips, and my third channel, because I got them 3 channels, Pascal Raw. Make sure you subscribe to all those channels. Hit that notification bell on all those channels. Set them to all, so you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, because it is random. Hit that join button down below, become a member, check out my Patreon, check out PascalMerch.com. Got some really great stuff over there. Check it out. It's good stuff. Authentic new stuff. One-of-a-kind type of stuff. Go check it out. PascalMerch.com. Anyway, guys, it's time to get going. Much love to you guys. We'll be talking here very shortly. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.